I love reading, and in this video, we're going to go through how to read better. We're going to start with more basic tips and then get more advanced. I would highly recommend you watch the video in sequence since each step builds upon the next, but if you want to skip ahead, feel free to do that. I've included timestamps in the video. Let's get into it. First, read what you find interesting. A lot of people think that you have to read really intense nonfiction when you first get into reading, but this is a mistake. You want to read what you find interesting because you're actually going to read that. So it can be books like Harry Potter, for example. It can be nice, easy fiction. And what's good about this is you're actually going to read that stuff. It's kind of like going to the gym. If you're just getting back into going to the gym and you're doing, let's say, 2-hour workouts 6 days a week, most likely you're going to quit. But if you give yourself a schedule where you go, let's say, 3 to 4 times a week, just 20 to 30 minutes at the beginning, then you're much more likely to actually stick with the plan. And the same applies to reading. The best reading plan is one that you're actually going to stick with. So at the beginning, just read whatever you find interesting. As you get better, you're going to be able to increase the intensity of this plan. You're going to be able to read more complicated things. And this will be something that naturally oozes out of you rather than something that you're just forcing on yourself. And this will lead to much, much better conclusions for your reading. Second, get into a habit of reading. You want to read every day. It doesn't matter if it's only 10 minutes per day. You want to get into a routine of doing this. And a good way to do this is to give yourself a certain space and keep that space the same and read in that space every single day. Again, even if it's only for 10 minutes. What's beneficial about this is you're allowing your mind to associate a certain space with a certain activity, reading, and that can really help to get into a routine. Again, it's like going to the gym. Developing a routine is key. And even if you're only starting with a small amount of time, then once you're in a routine, you can gradually start to increase the amount of time. And then once you get to a very advanced level, you can even, if possible, given your work routine, drop the reading routine because you're just going to want to read as part of your free time. Again, it's just going to be something that naturally oozes out of you, something that you naturally want to spend your time on. After you get to the point where you want to read and have developed a habit of reading, then start focusing on quality. This can be high quality fiction or nonfiction, depending on what your aim is. So for example, if you've always wanted to read Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, but found it really difficult in the past, you're probably in a good condition now to give it a go. Why? Because your desires and attention have been well cultivated. When this happens, the bar to what you can learn is near infinite. If you don't understand something in a text, now you're in a position where that's okay. You have patience. You're not going to automatically quit. What you're much more likely to do is you're much more likely to go back and reread the parts that you don't understand or to go look things up online to try and understand certain concepts. You're not just going to automatically quit. And that's probably the case before going through this procedure. Now, let's talk about how to engage with this quality material. Have a pencil in hand and write down notes in the margins. These can be ideas that you have, summaries of certain concepts in the book, summaries of a chapter, and questions that you have. If it's a question mark, what I like to do is I like to put a big question mark, and then I like to write down my question within the margins. It's kind of a way of flagging that I have a question about a certain concept in the book, that I don't understand something, so that I know where to go for it after. It's a way of flagging that I don't understand something, so later I can go back to that part of the book and reread it, or I can go on the internet and try to understand that concept more. With the notes you make, they can be words, but they can also be diagrams. They can be arrows moving from one concept to another. Or they can even be pictures, like stick figures, for example, with a few words if that helps you think through things. If you're just using words, especially for your own summaries, then try to use your own words. This is important because it's going to force you to put things in terms that you actually understand. When you use your own words, it's a way of testing that you actually understand something. If you can't put it into your own words, then most likely you don't understand it, at least at a deep level. So if you're struggling to put concepts into your own words, reread the passage and try again, and then just keep on repeating this process until you can put the concept into your own words. If you're striving to get the most out of a book, after each chapter, take your margin notes and transfer them to a computer or to a notebook dedicated to book summaries. So within your computer or within this notebook, you're going to include the summaries of the chapter, you're going to include your own ideas, and you're going to include your own questions. When referencing material from the book, make sure you put the page number down. Why? Because later, when you go to look over your notes, you want to make sure that you have a page number there, because if you don't understand a concept or if you just want to go a little bit deeper, you're going to want to know where that information came from. And having the page number is going to be very useful for that. So when it comes to writing my own ideas down in the notes section, what I like to do is I like to draw an arrow and then I put me, colon, and then I write my own ideas down. And I find that this is important because I want to make sure that I know what ideas are mine and what ideas are coming from the book. When it comes to writing your own ideas down, this part can be as long as you want. They're your own ideas, so just run with them. This will improve your understanding of the book, your critical thinking skills, and your creativity. And what's great about this is this skill set can transfer over to pretty much anything. It's going to help you out in life, and it's also just intrinsically valuable for your own understanding and your own development. The last step to becoming a better reader is developing a sense of quality. Now, what this is or how to acquire it, I can't exactly tell you. But we know that quality is a real thing. We know that there are good books and not so good books. But if I had to give you a precise definition of what a quality book is, and again, how to acquire this skill to discern what a quality book is, I couldn't actually tell you. I can't really give a general definition of quality that would be of any practical benefit to you. To get around this problem, what many people say is to read the classics. And to an extent, I agree with this. The basic reasoning is that the classics have stood the test of time, and they've stood the test of time in regards to their quality. Now, while I agree with this to an extent, I think that it is really missing out on something. It's missing out on something because if you just read the classics, you're going to miss out on quality books that aren't classics. Books like Sapiens, for example. So more recent books that are of a high quality but aren't classics. So I think it can be useful to read the classics at the beginning of this last stage, but I think that ultimately you should develop your own quality. You should start experimenting around with books that you think are of a high quality, and then just start developing your sense of quality from there. It's kind of like developing a well-tuned navigation system of what you should read. Now, this takes time though, so don't be in a rush. Before we wrap up, I just want to make a note on why reading is important. Just like when it comes to the body, what you eat shapes your body. If you eat low quality food, then your body is going to deteriorate. And it's a similar thing with the mind. If you feed your mind low quality content, then your mind will deteriorate. Now, the shape your mind is in doesn't make you a good person or a bad person. After all, you can be intellectually brilliant and still be a horrible person. It's kind of like with the body. If you take someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, he has an excellent body. His body is better than 99.9% of people. But just because he has a better body than the rest of us doesn't automatically mean he's a better person. But still, having a sharp mind is a good thing and is something that we should all strive to improve. And reading can help us accomplish this. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you found value in it. And if you want to hear more interesting, practical ideas that will benefit your life, feel free to subscribe. Have a wonderful day.